Welcome to Friday tip number 3. And this time we're going to drill down all the things that are involved in planning a successful Copilot to 4 essential getting started keys. So these are your priorities as you begin planning your first Copilot. All more information about this is in our implementation guide, and the link to that template, which is a PowerPoint deck of over 80 pages of great information, will be linked to in the description. This is a quick cheat sheet to help you get started with the essentials. I call it my simplified cheat sheet. All right. Number 1, know your targets. So before you even touch the Copilot Studio application, understand what your wins are and what you're trying to achieve. And here I suggest 2 things. Reviewing web analytics. So let me give you a little screenshot of what I'm talking about when I say this. Search terms, all right? This is a screenshot of Google Analytics showing search terms. So if you have a website and you want to put a Copilot on it or a chatbot on it, take a look at your web analytics, because here's what you're looking for. You're looking at what's being searched for and how successful those searches are. Yes, on your website, they're using keyword search, but it's a great indication of what your audiences are looking for. And by looking at these search results and how long they stay on the page they find, you can determine where there are gaps. For instance, you might find out that one thing that's being searched for is very rarely found. And you need to note this in your planning notes, because here are your highlights that you can target in your Copilot. How can your Copilot help people find the things you already know from your search metrics they're looking for? Okay? Could lead to some custom topics as well if you run into things that can be easily misunderstood. And usually that shows up in the second thing, which is take a minute or 2 and look at your agent or support ticket trends. Notice what's provoking a support case. Notice what provokes tickets being raised. Find out where their pain points are and where they know the customers have a hard time, because they'll have those statistics as to what takes them the most time to resolve and what is the most common questions that people ask, okay? Your FAQs can help with this as well, all right? And then the next thing, so going back to that slide a minute, so I've gone into know your targets. So you learn your targets from looking at existing metrics that you've picked up on your website or in your agent or support queues, all right? Next, you want to test your search engine for optimization, because if it's not coming up in a search index, it's not going to be seen by the AI. And so in some cases, you may need to do some search engine optimization to make sure that the stuff you expect to be seen by AI will be. In custom search first. So I will put this link in the chat. This is customsearch.ai, where you can, for free, configure search queries. All right. And I've done a few here, but let's say I want to do a new one, and I'm going to call this Trekkies, right? We're going to do Star Trek, right? Trekkies. I believe there's a website that will support this, which is www.startrek. I hope it's com. We'll find out. Com. Okay. And I will include subpages. And now I've got, I've set up a configuration. Now I can use this configuration in Copilot Studio. So this is a really cool thing to get used to, because you can tell your Copilot to look at only the active pages in this configuration. You can block specific pages, like those old pages about COVID that you don't need anymore. You can block them so that the AI doesn't spot those and give old answers. and you can pin queries that are common. So all I've done is put the website in here, and now I want to check and see what's in the index. So I just have to ask a question, query question, right? What is Star Trek? Let's see what comes up. Now remember, it is acting somewhat like search keyword, basically more like keyword search than by like AI search, but it comes up with everything that's in that URL, so it kind of restricts this search to that URL. I have nothing blocked, I have nothing pinned, and then it gives me answers back. And what you'll see is it starts to help you see what's being seen in the index. So I'm going to publish to make sure my last changes are there. Refresh this screen because I'm not ready to put it into Copilot Studio, but now I can say, what is Star Trek? Star Trek. And now you'll see the different answers. Okay, so now I know that that question, it found answers for it in my index. So I'm good to go, right? If I want to block any of these, I can click on block and it'll add it to my blocked section. If I think one of these is going to be very popular, like where to watch Star Trek, I might pin that, right? So that it's a pinned query, which will help in performance, right? So all of this is me testing my index. But if I type something up here that doesn't come back with results, then I know whether I see it on my site or not. I know it's not coming up in search index results. So you have to optimize your site for search, okay? And that means making sure it's indexed and that the content is showing up in the index. Okay, so that's number 2. All right, Bing Custom Search. It's free. You just go ahead and log in with your work credentials and go for it, right? The third thing I have here is asking yourself if you're AI ready. So just because you get search results doesn't necessarily mean your content is AI ready. So what I mean by that is that when you're generating answers with AI, it's summarizing answers found on pages. And sometimes those pages can either provoke or confuse the AI. So when I say provoke hallucinations and or confuse the AI, right? So I might have, somebody might ask a question is, do I need a passport to go on a trip? Well, AI doesn't usually ask you complimentary questions or clarifying questions. It's not going to say, well, passport to where? It's just going to want to answer you right away. So this is when you're just using generative AI. And we'll talk about this again when I talk about topics. But you're just using Gen AI. It's not going to ask you any supplementary questions. It's just going to throw an answer at you. So there may be one page on your site that says a passport is necessary, another page that says it isn't, right? The AI is going to pick whichever ones come up to the top of the queue, right? And so sometimes you need to be aware of where your site may confuse the AI or provoke hallucinations, in which case you may go back to using Bing Custom Search to exclude pages from a particular question or to add to target only pages for a particular question. And how you can test this is by using our demo site. Now, I'm not going to demo it today because it's down today, but normally you would just go to aka.ms Copilot Studio Demo and you can put a website in here and click Start Chat. You'll also have to accept the terms and conditions, but then you can start asking your site questions. This is purely a demo of the Gen AI. It is not the full product, and it will only work with what I'm talking about, which is public websites, okay? We'll have another day where we'll have tips about SharePoint. Today, we're talking about public websites, okay? So you can go ahead and put your website in there and start asking questions and try at least 20 different questions that you think are popular. Use those statistics from the web analytics or from the support trends and start asking questions and seeing where the AI comes back with the wrong answer or comes back with sorry. Jot that down in your notes because we're going to resolve that in Copilot Studio, because in this UI, you're not going to have any features to support you. You're just asking a question using AI. But in the product, you'll have features to support you. Features like using Bing Custom Search to target things. Features like custom instructions to guide with format and style. Features like topics where you can add nodes before and after you actually run the query. So you're going to have lots of options, but you kind of need to be aware of where the gaps are. Okay? Really kind of a fun way to test if you're AI ready or not. There's a big difference, and I tell this to people all the time. There's a big difference between AI and search engines. Okay? And let me just demonstrate this really quickly because I don't know if everybody who's watching this really understands. So I'm going to open up a new tab and I'm just going to go to that StarTrek.com site. Here I am. And I'm going to search for what is Star Trek. Okay. And when I search for that, notice there are 5,197 results. And it tries its best to prioritize those search results. And some search engines have ways that the owner can promote things to the top. But in any case, you're going to get multiple results. But when I ask with the AI, what I'm going to get is a paragraph, a summary of the answer, as opposed to looking at a whole page that I can flip through and decide what to click on. So AI is much more efficient at returning answers. Okay, so something to keep in mind. All right. Finally, number 4 is to plan dialogue patterns. And basically, this is how is the conversation or dialogue going to be managed in Copilot Studio. Basically, you're going to use all the information that you glean from above to determine where and what knowledge sources you need, what your Gen AI settings should be, what topic and actions you might need, which may be scripted or in need of framing, how you would allow unknown intent to be acceptable, which means there is no topic or action. It's just going to go straight to unknown intent or using generative AI. And then in some cases, especially those of you that are using dynamics, you may have an omni-channel and you want to escalate to a live agent. So just looking at the product for a minute, we're going to see these 3 tabs here at the top. And I'm going to go back to a different bot, which is the reality check bot, which I talked to you about in one of my videos where I shared the, this was like a training bot when I was learning. And I made one for a company that sells chess supplies and they have a chess club. And this is generating answers over Chess USA, chess.com, and lightchess.org. But over here, you see that I have a menu. So there are some topics that I decided to configure. So I didn't want them to just, so I could let them ask any question or I could frame it. So just to show you what I mean by framing it. If I click Learn Chess, and I just send that to a generative AI engine, even though we have restricted this to a couple of sites, that could come back with just about anything, right? Who knows what's going to come back? There's a whole bunch of stuff about learning chess. So we want to frame this so that people get a more focused answer. So in this case, I have a topic, first finding out what is your level in chess. Let me not give you information you don't need. Let me give you exactly the level you need. So then after intermediate is added, in this case, I chose intermediate. It then asks you, what would you like help with? Again, providing a framework from which they can make a selection, which to a person who doesn't know much about chess would be very helpful. Think about this in e-commerce, where you want to give them categories of products or models of cars. You want to kind of help your user get to where they want to be, right? And so this type of framework exists because of the topic I've created. I didn't just let learn chess get sent to the generative AI as is. I'm kind of using those supplementary questions and variables to build a dynamic prompt, and then that prompt is used to answer the question. All right. So knowledge is what knowledge sources are you going to lean on, right? Topics are these situations where you want to frame the use of generative AI, or you want to put a scripted answer. For instance, it's very litigious in nature. You could get sued. Or if the AI is wrong, somebody's safety could be impacted. In those cases, you would always script your topic, which means when they use those key terms, you would come back with the exact answer that you want them to get. You wouldn't leave that up to the random summary of an AI engine, okay? And then actions is when you want to get transactional, right? So perhaps you want to allow them to get the weather, which is the case here. Perhaps you want them to be able to look up somebody's game history in livechess.com or in chess.com. You can use those APIs, send an HTTP request, and get back that kind of thing using actions. So actions are where you take generative AI to the next step and you say, okay, how can I help you achieve something? There goes actions. All right. So basically you'll need to think about, is there any actions we want to include on our site? So perhaps, you realize that a customer wants to request an exception for something. You could say, would you like an exception? If they say yes, ask the 3 questions they would normally have to fill out in a form. Take those answers and fill the form out for them. Enter the database record for them. Submit the support ticket for them. So these are all actions. They're transactional. So all of that sums up my quick cheat sheet on how to plan your next Copilot. First, know your targets. Before you even look at Copilot Studio, what are you trying to improve with the experience on your website? Are there any web analytics or support trends that you can look at to find out where there's gaps or where people really need help that they haven't been getting as well as they wanted to on your site, right? Second, test your index, because anything that's not been search engine optimized, you've heard of SEO, will not be seen by the AI. So it's a waste of your time to ask questions for content that has not been indexed, because it will not give an answer from that content. So you have to make sure your index is working. And I often suggest you work with your web content owners to make sure that everything is optimized for search. Thirdly, check if that content is AI ready. And again, you can use this little demo aka link to just check Gen AI answers. That's a very simplified way of testing AI against your website. It's not the full product, doesn't require a license. You can just freely use it, all right, to ask questions and see what you get back. Are they good answers? Are they bad answers? Are they missing answers? These are things that you can learn from. Test about 20, 30 things from the index and the targets, the things that you gleaned up here. Test them down here and see what comes up well and AI ready. And then where you have gaps, remember that, because you'll have plenty of features in Copilot Studio to help you with those gaps, unless it requires help from your web content team to get it properly indexed, okay? And it can require both sometimes. And then finally, once you have all that information in your head, guess what? You're ready to plan your dialogue patterns. You will know what knowledge sources you need. You will know what your Gen AI settings and where they fit in. You will know if you need topics that are custom or actions for transactions. You'll know where you can just let it go. The rest of that, you can just let it go to Gen AI directly, and you'll have confidence because you have tested some of those things that they will work fine. And that will be kind of under unknown intent, meaning there isn't a predefined topic. There isn't a predefined action. Therefore, it's unknown intent. So it'll just go straight to Gen AI without any help. Although you can still give it some help. We'll talk about that another day. And then finally, if you're using omnichannel, you're using dynamics, or you have some method of escalating to an agent, then you can decide when is that going to be necessary? So this is your simplified cheat sheet on how you can plan a successful Copilot. So I appreciate taking the time to talk about these 4 things and encouraging you to look at the implementation guide in the description. But I'm telling you, if you just start here, you will probably have a very successful Copilot. All right, you have an awesome week, and I'll be talking to you soon for the next Friday tip.